Good morning. That sun's right in my eyes. Hope you can see all right. This morning I'm going to get a few little jobs done. I've got some cabbages that I want to take out and I'm going to take them back home and we'll get to do some little bits of magic in the kitchen with them, or disaster as the case might be. I've also got some onion sets to put in today. Has anybody else had difficulty getting the onion sets this year? I've really struggled. I've had to scratch around. I had some from Wilkinson's, some I couldn't get any from Marshall's. Eventually I've managed to get some more from Thompson & Morgan. I've already had some, but I needed more. So I've got some yellow, red and white onion sets to pop in as well. And then I've got as much as I really wanted to have. So we'll crack on with that. So there are three fairly moth-eaten cabbages. They're not, that one's not got a bad head actually, although it's smaller. There's not much of a head in that one. Soft, that one's got a hard head. I'm going to take them home and I've got a sauerkraut recipe that I am going to try. I'm not the biggest fan of sauerkraut, but I have made a delicious one before that involved cabbage and pineapple and turmeric and ginger, I think, which sounds a bit revolting, but I'm going to try and do that again, albeit with red cabbage this time as opposed to the white cabbage. That's the onion bed already. I've just popped some compost down on that. Kenny is busy turning the compost again. I think our resident rat has eventually decided to move on, so that's good. I'm trying to turn the compost certainly every couple of weeks to get it composting down much faster, and it's really working. I'm very pleased with that. I'll show you in a minute. And that's my onions that I eventually managed to get. All I've got is this one little plot here, this one little border, so I hope it's big enough for these. We'll crack on now and try and beat the weather because it is starting to spit on a bit. So they're giving us a nice little mix of red, yellow and white onions here, which is quite nice, and I'm just putting them in randomly, to be honest, not separating them out. And I've got plenty of space here. So all we do is drag all the compost out and then stick it all back in, and that's it stirred. I'm just trying to take the outside leaves off these cabbages to give to the hens, but actually the whole cabbages are nasty. This was the best one with the best head. Don't know whether you can see that. Just all kind of mangy and rotten inside. I don't know what that is, and there's loads of slugs tucked in the leaves. So I think, as luck might have it, I might not be able to make sauerkraut after all. Yeah. Just have that one, see what this one's like. Just had no luck at all with cabbages this year. I mind I didn't have any luck last year, maybe just bad at growing them. I'm not going to get much sauerkraut out of that though. I'll keep that a little bit. So that was it, 3 cabbages, and that was all I got. Poor Lillian. Poor Lillian at the back there is molting. She looks like she's been dragged to a hedge backwards. You can see all the little pin feathers, the new feathers coming up on her back. Looks a bit like a hedgehog on the back. But they'll enjoy those leaves nonetheless, even if we can't eat them. So I've changed my mind. I've decided I've got just enough to make a small jar of sauerkraut. So that's the purple cabbage there. I ended up with about 225 grams of cabbage. The sauerkraut I'm making isn't just a plain sauerkraut. I'm putting pineapple in there with that. I know it sounds weird, but I have made this one before and it was actually pretty nice. So it's pretty easy to do. All you need is your cabbage, your pineapple. You need salt, but not normal table salt, which has iodine in, because that will restrict the action of the fermenting bacteria. You need a jar. This is brine that I kept back from some fermented chili sauce that I was making. You don't have to have this. This is the reason I'm using it is because it's garlicky and it's chili and it's got ginger, all those flavours mixing in. So I think it'll add to my sauerkraut. If you don't have this, what you can do is, and what the original recipe that I made with this calls for, is add turmeric and garlic and raw ginger. You could put that in with this, but I'm not going to bother because I've got that and I think it'll be enough. So the first step is, all you need to do is you shred up your cabbage as finely or as chunky as you like. I like mine fairly finely shredded. And with this amount of cabbage, I just put 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to sprinkle that over like that. Once you've done that, you just get your hand in and you start to massage the cabbage. And what will happen eventually, when we keep on doing this, is the cabbage will start to release and let down all the liquid inside of it. And that is part of your brine that is going to help preserve and ferment your sauerkraut. So I'm just going to get on now and do this, and I'll come back to you when I think it's done enough. So there you go, I've been massaging that for about 5 minutes and you can see the liquid squeezing out of that there. The next thing I'm going to do is just mix in this pineapple. It is quite a lot of pineapple in proportion to the cabbage, but never mind, I like it. And with that, I'm going to put in another teaspoon of salt. And just give them a little mix. Crush up that pineapple a little bit, get the juices flowing. You know, I think this is going to be delicious when it's done. Looks nice, doesn't it? Right, next thing I'm going to do is pack it into a jar. So there you go, that's the jar I've got. I think it should be just about the right amount. Just pack it in. The thing is, you don't want any air bubbles in there. Actually, this jar is way too big. Way too big. So I'm just going to in with the brine and everything. And then get your hand in and push it in. Look at that, I could have had a jar half the size. I'm just going to leave it in this one though. Now I've done it. Now the thing is, you want the air out, because in the air you're going to cause the potential for molds and bacteria that you don't want in there. This is an anaerobic fermentation. In other words, it's done without air, without oxygen. You don't want the air in there. So you press that in, and then on top of that, you need all your vegetables to be underneath the brine. So if you haven't got enough brine, which I normally don't, some people seem to be able to get enough brine out of their cabbage, but I cannot. And there's a little bit there, but not a lot. If you don't keep it underneath, your vegetables will go mouldy. I've had it happen to me a few times. Now, as I said, I'm going to use this. If you didn't have this, you just make a brine solution. You can do a 2% up to, I think, 5% brine solution. So that would just mean for every 100 mils of water, you had 2 grams or 3 grams or 4 grams or 5 grams of salt dissolved, and that would be your brine solution. But I'm just going to use this and pour this in. Make sure everything's underneath. Oh, it's garlicky, that brine. There you go. You get those bits down, and then what you want to do is weight it. You can buy fermentation weights, but they're expensive. I've looked. I use other things. I've got this little silicone thing that's supposed to be as a lid for things. All you've got to do is push that in there. You're looking to weight down your vegetables under the brine. That on its own won't do it. So I've got a freezer bag. You can just use the freezer bag on its own actually. Put this in. Pour some water in. And that pushes the whole thing down. Like that. And you can see the vegetables just come up to about here. The brine's way up here, so we're fine there. I'll just tie that up a little bit. Pop it in, check it again, everything's underneath there. Now if you wanted, you could have a fermentation lock on here. I don't have such a thing. I've just got my lid. I'm just going to put it on, close it, and then loosen it off a little bit again. So it's just on loosely. Point being that as this ferments, it will be letting off carbon dioxide, and it needs to be able to escape. Worst case scenario, your jar could explode. If you just keep loosening it off, if you have a tight lid on every day certainly, or just keep it on half like that. So there you go, that's your sauerkraut, all done, or my sauerkraut should I say. I'm going to put that in the cupboard now, minimum 5 days. You'll be able to see it when it starts fermenting, it all starts bubbling up. This jar probably won't overflow because it's got a big gap there, but you should always put it on a plate or sit it in a bowl, because sometimes they do froth over and you can make your cupboard a terrible mess. As I say, I'll leave that for a minimum of 5 days. Probably for me, I'll leave it for a good bit longer, at least 2 weeks, I would have said. But I think some people leave them for weeks and weeks and weeks. You can taste it every few days and see if it is to your liking. Once it gets to a taste that you like, you can pop it in the fridge then and it'll stop fermenting, or the fermentation process will slow right down. Alright folks, thank you for joining us on this video. Give us a thumbs up if you liked it, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.